Let's dive into my 5 best strategies for managing ADHD in the classroom. Hi, I'm Dr. Roseann, and we're going to talk about how to best support kiddos with ADHD and, of course, neurodivergence within the classroom. For 3 decades, I've been supporting kids with ADD, autism, dyslexia, anxiety, depression, all these different things that actually affect attention. And sometimes we think it's ADD and sometimes it's not. But for all intensive purposes, we're going to talk about how do we support our ADD kids in the classroom because they are our largest grouping of neurodivergent children. And it's painful when you struggle with inattention, focus, getting started with tasks, completing tasks, impulse control, distractibility. I mean, there's just so many ways that ADD can affect the brain and how it looks so differently. And, ADD kids in general have a higher IQ than normal. And so that can be really perplexing for kids. It can be really perplexing for their parents and teachers because when you have an ADD child, and so many of the ones I've worked with have said to me, like, I know I have a Ferrari, but it's like I'm, riding a bicycle, right? Neil Hollowell always says, like, kids with ADHD are Ferraris with bicycle brakes. And it's true because their mind is working so fast, but yet they have to slow down all the time within a classroom. So let's dive into my 5 best techniques because these are things that when I used to write those 32-page reports that I would break down. School districts, by the way, hated me because like I didn't just say like needs executive functioning strategies. I put like 25 of them under each. You have to get super micro so that it can be clear, right? So number 1, my favorite is physical activity and sensory techniques. So when we're in a classroom, right, teachers often think there's not enough time to slow down to add in sensory activities or physical activities of any kind. But you're going to be nagging the students. You're going to be sit down, Joey. Amy, get your hands off of Carl. Whatever's going on. You're literally going to just be there, disciplining the kids. So when we add in sensory techniques, right, it's so much better. So from a parent perspective, you want to make sure these are in your 504 accommodations. They're in an IEP accommodation part. Can be an IEP plan. You can ask for consults, right? Every classroom, I don't care if it's teenagers, I don't care if it's 5-year-olds, they need sensory movement. Kids today are spending an average of 7.25 hours or more on their devices. And, even in my shishi poo poo private school that my kid goes to, love them, they're on their devices there too, even though they're out there like doing all kinds of things. They have PE every day. Oh my gosh, it's awesome. But we can't just think that this is not going to impact them. It's crunching their necks. They're getting tech necks is what it's called. So adding in physical activity and sensory techniques, right? So, having a band around their desk where they can, move, having a sensory wedge, getting up and moving, putting a teenager extra time to get to class to avoid noise or so that they have extra time to move around. Whatever it is, think about what the need is and add it in. And remember, every classroom can have movement. Okay, my second tip, teach executive functioning skills. Hello, how many times can I say this, right? So, executive functioning skills don't come from pills, people. They come from being taught. And some people sort of have an innate high level executive functioning. They're usually a Virgo, just saying. So and you're just sort of innate at kind of seeing what the end result has to be and organizing towards that goal, right? That's what executive functioning is actually working towards a goal, right? It's future thinking, it's planning, it's not attention. So when we teach executive functioning skills at every component, every step of learning, kids are going to be way more attentive. We often lose our learners because they don't know what the heck's going on. Like, you're like, "Why should I even pay attention?" It's sorta like, when somebody's trying to talk to me about algebra, as soon as I hear it, I'm like, "Oh, I'm not doing it," right? It's not even gonna happen. I don't need to. I made it to my 50s and I can avoid algebra. I think I'm okay. But kids have to learn a lot of things. And so when we teach executive, functioning, we are breaking things down, we're showing them the end result, we're giving them a scaffolding for learning. These can be things like using a mind map, always having a rubric, showing them an example of what's been done. Kids with ADD need it. And adding in those kinesthetic visual components to executive functioning amplifies it in such a high level. I mean, these are bright kiddos. Let's give them what they need to hear so they can excel, right? So, number 3, you got to focus on self-regulation techniques and coping skills. So, when the nervous system is dysregulated, no learning can occur. Your attention is not going to be normal. You're not going to think the same way. You're not going to process the same way. And hello, the body's not going to heal. So, we really need that nervous system to be regulated. So, what can that teacher do in the classroom level? What can be done in IEP and 504? A lot of things, right? So there can be calming breaks. Your child might be able to listen to, some of this, music that has built-in brainwave changing technology in it. Google Jeffrey Thompson. It's on Amazon Music. It has brainwave changing technology. There's also different ways that they can help calm, right? Maybe it's that they get to go to a certain area of, the school. Whatever needs to happen, we need our kids to self-regulate. Teachers can also really do this to help with self-regulation and coping skills, and that is we want to give explicit positive behavioral reinforcement. That's number 4. So, when our kids are regulating, when they are coping, right? Teacher or parent, we want to actually point it out and reinforce it. Like, wow, that was really hard. How did you get through that? Ooh, geez, hey, Joey, you are learning that, and that was so hard for you last week. What do you think is different? Oh, Mrs. Smith, I actually have been working on this outside of school. Like, and then you're like, "Hey, Joey, let me give you a high five because you're going the extra mile," right? We have to be very explicit. We don't just reinforce like good job. We actually want to specify what they did. And even say things like, wow, that was really, amazing. How do you feel about that you spent all that extra time and you're seeing the payoff? Right? You don't have to give them reinforcement. We want them to reinforce the heck out of themselves and start making those connections, right? My number 5 tip is not used enough, and it really is my number 1 secret, therapist secret, and that's using visual kinesthetic tools and strategies. Our neurodivergent kids, our ADHD kids are almost exclusively visual kinesthetic learners. When you are gab, 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 like that teacher on Snoopy that's like, "Bark, bark, bark," right? They don't hear you. That's why, Charlie Brown didn't hear her. So their brain isn't activating. We have to meet our kids where are at, and ADHD kids are visual kinesthetic learners. And so that means that they need to move when they're doing things. So instead of just trying to learn, math facts by talking, just get up and toss a ball while you're doing it, right? Actually get them to gesture, act it out, visually describe what it looks like. This is how we activate those learning centers. This is how we engage kids that seem unfocused or low motivation. Those things could be occurring because they're not being stimulated. And remember, these, whether it's the classroom or home, these are things that benefit our ADD kids. And if you're looking for more support, you can go to our solution matcher. It's drroseann.com/help. It's going to match you to the exact solution for what you need. And it's going to ask you questions, and you're going to be getting great information in your email box. Always check your spam. my gosh, I hate the Google update. I can't find people say things all the time like, "Did you get that email?" I'm like, "No." And sometimes I can't even get it to go through. But check your spam, check your promotions. You can always, if you want to ensure you're getting the email, you can reply back to the email and just say, "Hey, I'm replying back." And that means that you're more likely to get it, as well as if you click on the links. So, anyway, I've got lots of resources, lots of supports. You're here because I'm Dr. Roseann. I've been doing this for 3 decades, and I want you to help your dysregulated kid be calmer, more attentive, make learning easier, and of course, freaking love themselves. Because when you love them, when you love yourself, there are no limits, mamas and papas. Stay strong and remember, it's going to be okay when you take one step towards natural solutions.